For most of history, the ocean was not experienced as a surface, but as a volume. Sailors did not think only about what lay ahead of them, but about what lay beneath. The horizon could look calm, the wind could be steady, and the sky could be clear, yet danger could exist just a few meters below the waterline. The sea has always been capable of appearing safe while being precise, unforgiving, and shallow in exactly the wrong place. This is why shipwrecks so often occurred close to land. Far from shore, water is usually deep enough to forgive small errors. Near coasts, islands, and river mouths, depth changes quickly. Sandbanks form quietly, rocks rise steeply from the seabed. Tides alter clearance by hours. A ship can move from safety to danger without any visible warning. For centuries, sailors managed this uncertainty through experience rather than certainty. Knowledge was personal and local. A harbor pilot might know a channel well enough to guide ships through it, but only through repetition. When that pilot retired or died, much of that knowledge went with them. The sea did not remember. People had to. The first attempts to make the sea remember took the form of simple measurements. A lead weight tied to a rope was lowered over the side of a vessel until it touched bottom. The rope was marked at regular intervals so depth could be estimated. When the weight returned, it sometimes carried traces of the seabed, mud, sand, shell, which offered clues about location. These details were noted carefully. This work required slowness. A ship had to stop or drift. Someone had to feel for the bottom, not just wait for it. Currents could pull the line at an angle, requiring correction. Waves introduced uncertainty. Every measurement carried assumptions that had to be understood by the person recording it. Still, it was better than guessing. Over time, repeated soundings along known routes began to form patterns. Sailors sketched coastlines more accurately. Shallow areas were marked. Dangerous rocks were remembered. Slowly, charts began to emerge, not as authoritative documents, but as evolving records of experience. Blank areas on early charts were not empty seas. They were simply unmeasured. As shipping increased and ships became larger, the cost of those blank areas became clear. A single grounding could destroy a vessel, block a port, or cost lives. Quiet knowledge became essential infrastructure. Hydrography grew into a formal discipline not because it was elegant, but because it was necessary. Survey vessels were tasked with measuring the sea in systematic ways. They did not explore in the romantic sense. They moved back and forth along predetermined lines, covering the same water repeatedly. Their progress was slow by intention. Accuracy required overlap. Doubt required a remeasurement. This work demanded patience from crews and trust from institutions. Funding surveys did not produce immediate results. The value emerged only later, when nothing went wrong. When sound replaced rope, the process became more continuous, but no less deliberate. Echo sounding allowed ships to measure depth constantly as they moved, turning the ocean beneath them into a flowing profile of numbers. Over time, these numbers were assembled into maps that showed not just points, but shapes, ridges, slopes, basins. Still, the ocean resisted simplification. Sound behaves differently in warm and cold water. Salinity affects speed. The seabed reflects differently depending on its composition. Every measurement had to be corrected, calibrated, and interpreted. Technology did not remove judgment. It required more of it. As charts improved, they became layered documents. Depth was only one component. Tidal ranges were added, showing how water level changes throughout the day. Currents were noted, especially where they could push a ship off course. Bottom composition mattered for anchoring. Wrecks were marked once discovered, not as history, but as hazard. A nautical chart became less like a picture and more like a compressed conversation between surveyors and mariners. These charts were never final. Storms rearrange coastlines, rivers deposit sediment year after year, slowly changing channels. Glaciers retreat. Earthquakes lift and drop sections of seabed in ways that may not be visible from the surface. Even human activity, dredging, construction, dumping, alters underwater terrain. Because of this, mapping the ocean is not an achievement that can be completed. It is a responsibility that must be maintained. Survey ships still move slowly today. They follow careful tracks. They revisit known areas, not because they expect surprises, but because certainty fades over time. An old measurement is not wrong, but it is incomplete. Age itself introduces doubt. Most people will never see these ships or understand their purpose. From a distance, they look like vessels going nowhere in particular. They pause, turn, repeat paths. Their progress does not look efficient. But efficiency is not their goal. Their goal is to replace surprise with expectation. The success of this work is almost perfectly invisible. When a cargo ship enters a harbor at night without incident, the chart has done its job. When a ferry crosses a shallow channel daily without grounding, the chart has done its job. When a ship alters course slightly long before danger is near, the chart has done its job. No announcement is made. The chart does not celebrate. It simply exists, trusted enough to be followed and doubted enough to be respected. Mariners are trained to read charts with humility. They know that the map represents the best available knowledge, not a guarantee. They adjust for conditions. They proceed cautiously where uncertainty remains. The chart informs judgment rather than replacing it. This balance is part of what makes the system resilient. As you rest, ships are moving across oceans, guided by information gathered long before their journey began. Beneath them, the seabed rises and falls according to patterns that have been measured, checked, and revised quietly over time. The sea remains vast. It remains indifferent. It has not become safer by nature. It has become safer through attention. The maps do not ask to be noticed. They do not tell stories. They do not announce success. They prevent shipwrecks by making danger predictable. And they do so quietly every night.